is, I would love, here's Andrew's here now. I would invite you, any of you, and I really would love you to ask a question or two of Andrew, because you're going to have questions for him. This is gold, by the way. Like, people are going up to the Gold Coast to pay to listen to people like him. We've got him now for 40 minutes and he's on fire, by the way. So, you know, the chat box is on. If you just want to, if you don't want to ask a question, or if it's noisy and you're muted, you can email me, you can chat me and I'll ask a question. But my preference is that you guys, after 10 or 15 minutes, if you've got some questions for Andrew, by all means, just ask Andrew. Introduce yourself and say, you know, I'm Clay Chigwidden. Andrew, tell me about this, and he'll happily help. Is everyone, am I clear with that? Just a thumbs up if I'm clear with those instructions. Sorry if I bumbled my way through that. I just wanted to get that right. Good. So if it's noisy, mute it. If it's not, unmute, and feel free to jump in and ask a question at any time. Okay, one at a time once we get there. Andrew and I have known each other for probably about 15 years now. He is someone I have a lot of respect for, enormous amounts of respect for. Not only is he a great agent, which you all know about, he's on track for 100 sales this year. He would be BresicWhitney's #1 agent now, I would think. If he's not, he will be this year. He's got a team of 4, which we'll hear about. Very committed to his craft, very humble, which is nice. Father of 4, which I shouldn't miss. It should be probably one of the first things I should say. I've got one, and on how hard that is. He's got 4 of them. So that's really impressive and inspirational. Andrew will tell you himself that it wasn't an overnight success. He's been grinding away, similar to what I started the session with, what I read out about compounding, behaviors, little wins, showing up on good days, but showing up on bad days too. Impeccably dressed, I might add, always got a pocket square and a nice suit on, but a really good guy. And doing incredibly well. So I'm really, obviously, BresicWhitney in Balmain. I'm really grateful that he could come along today. And Andy, welcome, mate.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, appreciate it. Pleasure to be here.
Always good to see you, whether it's preferably in person or on the other side of a screen. Mate, thanks for coming along today. How are you feeling, I should ask?
Feeling good. Yeah, feeling good. I think, you know, you and I have had conversations over the last couple of weeks about how you know, each month and each period of the year is different, and I probably mentally for a moment there didn't give that enough credit. Just being conscious of the sort of waves in the year, and when that's sort of, you know, up in 6th gear, and sometimes it's in 4th. And I think it's pretty clear based on what we've had discussions about that, you know, April is probably a slower month for most, which is okay, and I sort of became comfortable with that. And just sort of building on May and June. But no, I feel good. I feel focused. Team's humming. I'm making plenty of calls. So yeah, I feel good.
Enjoying where you're at and enjoying your craft at the moment?
Yeah. I am really enjoying it. It's certainly become more enjoyable over the years as I've progressed and spent more time in the game, and you know, it starts to feel like there's a bit of recognition from the market, both buyers and sellers, which is pleasing. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to ever feel like I deserve any listings or any opportunities, but it certainly feels like I probably deserve to be at the table, which is a nice feeling. Yeah.
And how many sales have you done this month in April?
We are on 6. I've got 2 others exchanging today, so that'll take us to 8. I'll probably get another one through. So between around 9, I reckon we'll finish up for the month.
Great work. And for the year, how many sales has your team done so far for the year?
32 so far this year.
Very well done. And your average sale price?
He's hovering at around 2.6. For the month, I think it's hard now. I think it's probably sort of 3.4, 3.5, but circa 2.6 for the year.
Good.
Yeah.
You've been asked to speak at ARIC this year, which did you think twice about that, or I'm straight?
Yeah, no, I did. I said to John McGrath that you know, certainly that sort of imposter syndrome was my sort of first reaction, but you know, I thought that it was going to be a good opportunity to challenge myself. And then again, after we spoke, I know how much I have gotten out of the industry from others over the years and continue to get out of the industry. So it was only the right thing to do to impart, you know, any of the knowledge that I have. So no, I'm a bit anxious about it, but no, I'm excited to give it a crack and challenge myself. And it feels like a bit of an honor, really. I mean, I know it's been going for sort of 20 plus years now, but yeah, certainly from a sort of an industry point of view, I suppose it's an honor to be asked. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I think you'll do a great job, and you should be speaking at it based on your numbers and your journey. We can go in a few directions today, and I'm sure we're going to get deeper as we go. I've asked my group to chip in and ask any questions as we go. So, you know, I'm sure they'll come up with them as we go. But you've obviously created this great situation you're in now. And I would dare say that none of us others who are in here are in your situation. So I'm trying to help us in, you know, if we're trying to get 10 or 20% better, that's what I try to aim to do with all my clients every year, right?
Mm. Mm.
And if you go back to where tell the guys where you started, actually, if you don't mind, and girls. I know Jack Parry, Renee, and Mel are here. But please, I'm sure they're happy to hear it again.
As in my first role in the industry?
Yeah, like
or
where
just
did
the
you
journey,
start?
or
Just so everyone else knows, where did you start, what age,
Yep,
and just a quick one, you know, there, the
yep,
CA.
yeah. So my first role was in Balmain, a little sort of boutique agency who actually had good market share at the time, Sarah Lorden Real Estate. I was there for 12 months or just over sort of 14 months. And you know, I've told this story 1,000 times, but I'll briefly tell it again. I met a young Damien Cooley, who was the head auctioneer for Lorden's at the time. And you know, you know, I don't know how old I was, probably 24-ish, 23, sort of young, impressionable. Saw this guy Damien, who was you know, doing well, dressed well, you know, and appeared successful. And so I caught up with Damien. I asked him if I could have a coffee with him, and I said, Damo, you know, I'm eager. I can feel my wheels spinning, but obviously I'm very green. What can I be doing to improve my skill set and basically fast track any form of success? And he said to me, mate, the two things you can do is be a nice guy, be a nice person. You know, be someone that people want to deal with. This is a people industry, so if you can be someone that gives good service, people enjoy dealing with, inevitably that will help you long term. And then look after buyers, which is sort of ironic because obviously now at BresicWhitney, you know, buyer work is so important. But he said that to me years ago. He said, look after buyers because you don't have any sellers to look after. And, you know, today's buyers are tomorrow's vendors. So I thought, okay, shit, that's pretty good advice. So then I'm at Sarah Lorden and I see this young guy, Adrian Oddie, driving around Balmain, nice car, personalised number plates, the whole shebang. And I work out he's a buyer. So I see him floating around and he comes to a couple of our open homes. And you know, I've got no idea what I'm doing at this point, but I tried to sort of qualify or as best as I could, sort of understand, you know, what he's looking for, et cetera, et cetera. He ended up bidding on a property that we were representing and he missed out. And so I called him after and said, Adrian, look, I don't even know if I have the right to sort of call you and say this, but I'll do it anyway. Obviously, you're looking to buy. If we have anything here at Sarah Lorden that's coming up or off market, I'll just flag it with you. I just was treating him as a buyer. And I'll let you know, I'll give you the heads up. And he was like, shit, okay, mate, that's really helpful. And then a couple of weeks later, I get a call from Matt and Danny Cobden and Matt Hasten, who own Cobden Hasten, we still do. And they said, look, you know, we've sort of heard you're pretty sharp. You should come and talk to us. So Adrian was a huge influence for me joining that business. And ironically, I think buyer work basically got me the job there. And so then I spent probably 4 years thereabouts at Cobden Hasten. I was in a pretty fortunate role there because I wasn't part of a team, but nor was I standalone. I was in a sort of pretty fortunate position where Matt and Danny would basically list properties and then they would give me the agreement and say, mate, you go and sort of run it. So I was able to sort of cut my teeth and learn and fall over and learn that way. And then it got to a point where I probably felt like I was making a bit of progress. But again, it was really progress from a point of view of building relationships in the market, looking after buyers, offering to bid for people, all those sorts of things. And then, I mean, I won't go into it, but the sort of culture change there. Adrian left Cobden Hasten, started BresicWhitney Balmain. I sort of monitored him for probably 12 months because at the time we just had a newborn and we bought a property. So I was a bit sort of nervous about making any drastic changes with a mortgage and a newborn. And then from there, I had a decision to make because I knew I wasn't going to stay at Cobden Hasten. And I spoke to John McGrath and I spoke to a couple of others, but really my decision to join BresicWhitney was a cultural one. And it was an exciting time, I suppose, with BresicWhitney Balmain being born. So I came across, joined Adrian, and I've been here at the end of this year, 10 years. Yeah.
So Andy's been at BW for 10 years. Do you mind sharing your age with the group, Andrew?
Yeah, 37. 37.
Andrew, 37, 4 kids, been at BW for 10 years. When do you always thought real estate? Like when you're at Sarah Lawden's and CH, you didn't think about, like, did you struggle in the earlier years? Like, did you ever doubt yourself or did you just stick with it?
No, I never doubted myself. I often found myself frustrated with the speed that it took to build momentum and a profile and track record because I had Adrian, Adrian's about 5 years my senior in age and also in the business. So I was always sort of watching Adrian thinking, geez, he's getting calls, he's doing this, he's doing that. So I'd always found myself probably comparing in the early days, which wasn't very helpful, but certainly trying to emulate him and chase him, which I found hard in the early days. But no, I didn't really have a plan B. I didn't go to university or anything. So it was real estate and that's it. Yeah.
You've mentioned that at Lawden's and at CH that you didn't have many sellers, so you would spend time with buyers and just going to auctions. And how did you end up why did you choose Balmain? How did you choose that core market?
It wasn't really a choice that I made intentionally. I think, to be really honest, if I had my time again, I probably would have chosen the North Shore, which is where I grew up and went to school. It was my wife. Amy had a friend who worked at Sarah Lawden in the marketing department, and I just moved back from overseas. And I wanted to propose to Amy, but I was bartending at the time, and I thought, shit, I better get a decent job here. I can't really propose on a bartender's salary. So Amy suggested to me, I've got this friend who works in marketing in real estate, and I like the idea of wearing a suit. So that's how it came about. But it was just fortuitous that Balmain was the place. I'd never been to Balmain before my first interview here. So yeah.
Interesting. How would you describe your style? Like everyone's got a different style as an agent. How would you describe your style?
I would describe my style as consistent. I think I'm pretty consistent with my practice. I'm fairly sort of measured. I try not to sort of get too high nor too low. I learned very early on, and Balmain is very like this, and I'm sure lots of markets are like this, but I learned very early on that Balmain in particular, where I work, is such a small community, and if you do the right thing by people, it'll benefit you long term, and if you do the wrong thing, equally you'll get found out pretty quickly. So I think I've always just tried to take the view that you just don't know who you're dealing with, who they know, why you're talking to them in the first place, and what impact that can have. And I think, as I said before, I think now that I've been here for as long as I have, I can start to feel some of the good work I've done over the years come back to sort of help. And an example, I guess, is I just had a gentleman drop off a key. We're sending him an agency agreement this morning. It's for an $8 million house in Birchgrove. He probably called me 9 years ago because I've got pretty good records on my database. And he said, look, Andrew, I'm not looking to sell. I do own in Birchgrove, but I'm not looking to sell. I've got a friend that's looking to buy. Can you help her? So he just sort of referred me a buyer. I looked after her as a buyer, kept him on my database, and pitched on the business on the weekend. I said 1.8%. My nearest competitor said 1.1% for an $8 million house. We've agreed on 165, so I'm still considerably dearer than my competitor. But that's just, I guess, an example of A, doing the right thing by people, and B, long-term prospecting and long-term database work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think your description of yourself is pretty right. You're consistent, measured. I haven't seen you get very emotional over the years. Like I haven't seen you, like you said, you don't get too high when you're up and you don't get too low when you're down. Is that conscious, or is that you've trained yourself on that? Because I
No, I
think
think that is.
it's really easy in the industry to get the highs and the lows. So I'm curious how, and with my coaching a lot of the time, I'm trying to encourage my clients, just, hey, it's cool, stay measured, stay measured. But are you consciously doing that, or have you learned the hard way?
No, look, I definitely feel emotions, and I don't always stay centered. I just find that, and you helped me with this many years ago, that when you're feeling good about yourself, inevitably you're about to get a punch in the teeth the next day. So stay centered, stay calm. Equally, all the sort of negative stuff won't last either. So try not to spend too much time down there, because it's effectively a distraction from what you could be doing. And also, I've learned, and actually you said this to me a long time ago, before you had children, which I thought was sort of interesting, is my family life have helped me sort of keep balance. And what I mean by that is, if I have a great day, like today, I might have a good day. I might sell 2 houses at an auction this evening, should go well. I might go home feeling pretty good about myself. But all I have to do is walk into my house. It looks like we've been robbed, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, cool, back to center. Equally, I can have a super crummy day, and I go home and I'm reading one of my daughters a book in bed, and she's cuddling me, and I think, like, that prick Ben door, is not going to ruin my evening. How would this? So I think my family has sort of helped me remain, as I say, centered and composed.
Yeah, I've always been impressed with how committed you are. Like I still now see you going to 4:35 in the morning. You still have with the 4 kids, and I know what time you're getting to work. You make lunch for the kids most days, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, I do lunches. I've started in the night before now, but yeah, I'll do lunches for the 3 older kids, either in the morning or the night before. I suppose it's a small thing that I can do to support Amy for all the support that she gives me. Yeah.
Very impressive, mate. If there was a Husband of the Year award, mate, I know where I'd appoint it.
I don't know about that.
So if like when you say you do get emotional, or what are the tough, like what have been the tough, when you think back, what have been some tough moments and tough spots you've fallen in over the years? Not recently, just over the years. Like what's affected you on your journey when you think back?
In real estate?
Yeah, yeah.
I think there's definitely been a couple of times a while ago now, so let's say in the last 3 to 5 years, where, because I've been so determined and committed to be good at this, or to be great at this, and I've always put a lot of pressure on myself to perform. Basically coming second, or not being the best, for want of a better word, is just uncomfortable for me. So I think I've put probably too much pressure on myself over the years, to the point where actually I remember there was a period of time there. This was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and Adrian was doing exceptionally well, flying. My business partner, Adrian Oddie, doing really, really well, and I wasn't doing so well. And the more pressure I put on myself, the harder it became, because I was so focused on what he was doing and what I wasn't doing, that I was sort of out of my lane, and not focused on it. I actually. It was a weird situation, because I actually pulled him into the boardroom and I said, like, I was in tears, and I remember I said to him, mate, I feel so shitty, because like Adrian's one of my best mates, and we've been working together for yeah, almost 15 years, and we're business partners. And I love the bloke, but my comparison, the focus I had on comparing myself to him and his journey, took me away from actually being really happy for the guy that he was doing really well, and it became about me, which was a really horrible feeling. And I remember saying to him, I was sitting in this room in tears, saying, "Mate, I'm so sorry. I just don't know how to be happy for you right now, because all I'm doing is worrying about what I'm not doing, and not, pleased for you and your progress." So I think I struggled with that a little bit over the years, this sort of comparison game. I've definitely gotten better, and I've tweaked it, and you've helped me with this. Little things like, I guess as an owner of the business, I get a lot of information about my colleagues and the agents within the business, and things like reports around every single agent in the business, what they're writing, what they're not writing. And I used to sort of go over that with a fine tooth comb and think to myself, okay, he's here, she's there. Yep, what am I doing wrong? I've just decided that everyone is on a different path. Everybody has different strengths and weaknesses. And the more time I spend focusing on others is a distraction. And as you said to me, comparison is the thief of joy. So I've just decided that, I'm doing my best. That's all I can do. Focus on what I can control. Focus on my journey, and be happy and be content for others around me that are on their own journey. Like I look at McClay, who I compared myself to for many years. Again, still a very good friend of mine, even though he's left the business. He and I are on different paths, and he's doing exceptionally well. I'm doing well too, I suppose, and we're both on our own different journeys. And I've become comfortable with that over the years, probably as I've matured, and as I've realised what's important in life, which is my health, my family, and doing well at work.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, that, and I think the comparison thing, that's everywhere through the industry. Because as humans, we already compare, even for electricians or solicitors, where we compare anyway with our neighbours from my research. Then you add to that the fact that we're in this real estate industry where we're driving past signboards, we're hearing about GCI, we're reading things in the newspapers, we're hearing top 50 agents, we're seeing competitors won listings. Like it's pretty tough. The comparing thing comes up a lot. Like I did a session with James. I had an interview with James Ball the other day, and he goes, yeah, I catch myself comparing all the time. He's 5 years younger than you. He said just last night he was online looking at some competitors' listings, and he started comparing himself to them, wishing that and he's done $2 million in the first 3 months of this year. Like, so it's pretty wild. But thanks for sharing that, mate. If you wrote a book on how to become a better real estate agent, what would you say in there about winning business? Would you say selling houses or winning business is more important?
Well, I think you've got to win the business first to sell the house. So I think winning business is probably the key. I think
So
becoming
go ahead, sorry.
I think becoming a good lister is a real art. I've decided, and then I've sort of learned over the years. And as I said, I've made plenty of mistakes, and I've lost shitloads of business. I've won a bit too. So I think becoming a good lister will help you become a good seller or a good executor, if that makes sense. So I think I'd probably focus on, if I was to write a book, it would be about process. I mean, this is just me, right? Everyone's different.
No, we want to hear it. We want to hear it. So, what's an process?
It's about process. It's about database. It's about being consistent with communication. And it's about again doing the right thing and offering a service or an experience even when it's not directly going to benefit you. Like the amount of calls I make to buyers. I've got a property on the market at the moment that's going to auction. I called them 5 weeks ago and said, Cobden Hazen has a cracker listing on Gibb Street, Birchgrove. I'm going to text you the link now. You should call Danny. I'll text you his number. You should call Danny and try and get in there before the crowds. It's a really good house. They bought it, gave me their listing uncontested. So, I mean, and even if that wasn't to be the case, again, I say to my team that, sometimes good karma comes back to you next week. sometimes it takes 10 years. And it's, in my opinion, it's those that are prepared to be patient and do the right things consistently. It's like anything in life. You can't have a good diet by eating chicken and rice for 2 days. You can't have a good relationship by being kind and doing the right thing for 2 weeks. It's no different to prospecting and having a good real estate practice. It takes time.
Yeah, you've got to be impatiently patient. Okay, so that's a good one. So, if you lost, now that you've been on that journey for 15 years, right? Is that right?
Yeah, 14 years. 14 years. Yeah, yep.
You know how you had that thing with Oddie 3 years ago when he did 100 sales, you did 60, and you felt a bit down. Fast forward 3 years, it's now April 2024. You're on fire. You've got it. Sorry, we didn't tell everybody, but he's got a team of 4. He's got a PA and 3 junior agents. He's probably, the team that Andrew's put together currently is probably one of the best teams I've seen, probably since Will Phillips had a team. When I say BW, not in the industry, probably since Will Phillips had his team of Kirky and McLean, whatever. But just everyone's knowledge, Andrew has Brandon Newen, who's worked for him for several years, who's a great associate, does really good things, probably gives Andrew's team 20 listings and sales a year or 30. He's got Maddie, who was an agent who decided to go back in Andrew's team. And he's got a young Max Toomey, who was one of BresicWhitney's lead BDMs, George. And he went into Andrew's team, so he gets mentored by Andy. So he's got 3 really strong, balanced associates, which helps prop him up. So now I would say, Andrew, you're in a really good flow, right? You're in a good flow. And that's when you're enjoying it most. You can be happy for other people. You don't have to compare yourself as much because you're in a good flow, you're present, you're enjoying things, and things are coming to you. So your advice to my group, that's taken you 15 years. If you had to go back and start that all over again, how could you have got to where you have today quicker? And could you have?
Probably not, I believe. And I say that because my journey of growth collided is the wrong word, but coincided with my family. And I remember, again, not to compare, but I've spent many hours attending ARICs, listening to podcasts, meeting other agents, trying to be a sort of student of the game, so to speak. And I remember I caught up with Piers Van Hamburg, very good agent on the Lower North Shore, and I was trying to sort of rack his brain and get some information from him around how he does it with children. He's got 3 children, balance, work, etc., etc. And I guess, again, where our journeys were different was that Piers had, I'm pretty sure it's 12 or 13 years of industry grind, so to speak, before his children came along. So what he pointed out to me was, by the time his children came along, he actually had profile and he had runs on the board and he had, an attraction business. I suppose, if we think that my journey took a little bit longer, it probably did, because I've spent my eldest son is almost 11. So I've had 11 years of trying desperately to balance out time with them, a good relationship and a healthy relationship with my wife. So I wouldn't change it, because I think if I tried to press the accelerator any harder, there would have been sacrifice in other parts of my life that I'm not prepared to compromise on.
Yeah. And Andrew's always been really committed, guys and girls. Like, he'd always be in the sales meeting, sitting in the second row. He'd always go meet with other agents, not just at BW, outside BW. He's met with, like you just said, I remember when you met with Piers. Andrew and I we used to meet a lot when I worked at the business. We've continued to do that work over the years. So he's coachable. He's been to heaps of ARICs. He's been at podcasts. So he's all for it. I've got a life coach. Just on that, I've got my life coach, which everyone knows about. I've just put on a second coach. I've just paid another coach, I think $8,000 for 3 months, and I'm going to meet him twice a month. Simon Reynolds, who's a very well-known business guy in Sydney. So I'm meeting with Simon as well as my life coach. So so that's really good. You've always been there doing that. You said that listings are really important, having a good listing presentation. Sorry, I'm going to jump around a bit now, but I want to probably get through nuts and bolts now that we know your journey and maybe some of the skills where you're really strong at. If you lose 5 listings in a row, which wouldn't happen now, I don't think, but it could, what do you do to realign, reset?
First thing I'll do is handle the loss or the rejection the right way. I think it starts there because I hear too many stories and still surprises me the way agents carry on when they miss business. Now, I get disappointed, I get frustrated too, but never have I ever shown that on a call or a text or an email. I just cannot see any benefit from behaving any other way than professionally. Now, believe it or not, I hear people all the time, vendors all the time, actually say things like, the hardest part of our sales process was actually picking an agent. Like, people find that really stressful, and it's confronting having to let people down, or like, because people don't do that very often. So the idea of letting someone down who's spent time with them, I think, is actually harder than we give it credit for. So the first thing is, if I lost 5 in a row, I would handle that rejection and those misses and those disappointments with composure, with courtesy. I always wish them well. Every time I miss a piece of business, as soon as it comes online, I send them a text. Hi guys, photos look amazing. I'll be sure to send any buyers to your open homes. Best of luck with the campaign. I then put a diary note the night before the auction. And this isn't to undermine the current listing agent. I just think this is a nice thing to do. I put a diary note on the night before the auction, and I just send them a quick text. Best of luck with your auction tomorrow. I don't say shit like, oh, surely you'll get $4 million. You'd be disappointed if you didn't. I just say, guys, auction tomorrow, obviously a huge day. Best of luck. I just think, and I've had.
How long have you been doing that for? And has it proven to be a good method? Like, has it been good for your business? Or how's it been good for your business?
Yeah, I reckon I've been doing it for 10 years, and it's been good for my business because, again, going back to that idea that most marketplaces are pretty small and everyone knows everyone. And I just think that all it takes is that current agent to step out of line, apply too much pressure at the wrong time, whatever it may be. They'll probably still get the result and the fee. But I've had heaps of situations where, I thought, Mary or John were loyal to ABC Realty. They sell with them twice. I might miss it twice, but then I get it third time around because they're like, you know what, geez, you handled that well. You stayed consistent. I think a lot of agents miss business that owner or that vendor still operates in that marketplace, and they just sort of throw them in the bin because they think they're assholes. I just think, fuck it, I'll keep going. Like, I'll keep trying because they'll sell again in 3 years or in 5 years when they divorce. And if I can do the right thing, I might actually get a second crack at it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're staying with them, you're staying humble. What about you if you've taken a battering on your confidence? What do you do there? What's your advice to us there?
Yeah, that is hard. There's no doubt. I mean, if I lost 5 in a row, I'd feel pretty flat too. I think, like, I speak to Maclay about this a lot actually, and I think that if I was in that situation, I would just have to, as hard as it is, revert back to the basics. And the basics are, get back to your stock sheet or however you have your sort of setup running. Look at who the 10 best buyers are in the marketplace that want to make a buying decision. Look at the next 10 sellers that are considering a sale. Get out there, get to auctions, get to open homes, make phone calls. You just have to get back on the horse. There's no other choice.
Yeah, I would make a sports analogy there as a coach. I'd say that, like, if you've been through a lull and you just think that you're an international cricketer, and then you've been bowled and you're a batsman and you've been bowled out for a duck and 6 and 12 and a duck and 9, get back into the nets, breathe with mentors, get back in the nets,
Yep.
keep hitting the ball, keep trying to hit the ball. That's what you're good at. You know you're good at it. You're just going through a lull.
Yep.
Back to the basics, get some sleep, get your lifestyle right, go get the mind right, and just keep practicing, and you'll eventually start hitting the ball in the middle of the bat.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Two
probably
other
one.
things on that. I guess I would try and ask for feedback if I thought it was appropriate. Why I'm missing the business, because
Yeah.
that's obviously helpful to understand if for whatever the feedback is. The other thing I heard Alex Phillips say years ago was if he lost five in a row, he's probably pitching on 25, so five doesn't really matter if he misses five, but he will go back through his sale list from the year before, and he'll look at that list and he'll say, okay, cool, yeah, that vendor came from here. Yeah, oh, geez, that was a good off-market sale. I met that buyer here and I did this. And he'll just almost sort of reframe his mind to go back to success or some wins from the year before, just to
Yeah.
sort of get his mind back on track to, yeah, shit, actually, I did thought I was going to miss this, but yeah, I got that one, and geez, that buy deal there, that was good. So almost sort of going back to what you have experienced from a success point of view or a winning column point of view, and almost just reframing your mind. Actually, yeah, you know what? I can actually do this. I can compete. I can win them. Okay, go back to the drawing board, hit the phones, and keep going.
Yeah, that's a good point. I used to when I went through a lull, I'd go back and call some clients on my database, and they go, "Hey, Ivan, how you
Mm.
going? Great to hear from you. You guys doing some great things. I see your signboard." So I would go from. I found that if I went back and called some of my clients, they would just reassure me. Just I knew that I had clients in the market that
Mm.
would see praises after I'd lost quite a
Yep.
few, and that would just give me the
Yep.
confidence I could drive back and go, "I'm not hopeless. Yeah, I've had a
Mm.
bad run, but I have got some clients out there. I'm nurturing those clients, and good days will come." That's a good one. Thanks, mate.
Mm.
When you say about the
Yep.
list, if you don't mind, just quickly, how would you, if you were going to write a book on how to best list, and you were going to do a 30-second audio on that, how would a minute audio on how to best list? How would you describe that, Andy?
Uh, I think it's, to steal Adrian's analogy, listing is a game of inches. Listing is a game of inches. And, I remember years ago, I would get a phone call, maybe write, down their email address on my notepad and then turn up, 3 days later and sort of hope for the best. Now it's a pretty sort of methodical process in terms of, the qualifying call to begin with is paramount. Now that can't always happen. If you're talking to, Doris and a hearing aid battery is going low and she doesn't want to spend half an hour on the phone, qualifying, then you might need to do it on the spot when you get there. But ideally, if you can borrow 3 to 5 minutes of that person's time and explain to them why you need that time. Jenny, I just need 5 minutes of your time before I come and see you on Friday. I just need to understand how I can help you best. Do you mind if I ask you some questions? So really understanding from the very get-go before you race down there, all the basics, their timing. Do they have other relationships with agents? Why are they considering a sale? Have they sold before? There's 25 questions you could ask someone to really help you understand what the actual situation is, so that you can then start thinking to yourself, okay, how am I going to approach this? Because not every situation is the same. I will then note that person on my pipeline, and I'll think about between, say, Wednesday and Friday when I go to meet them, what can I provide them from a value add information point of view that will help me even before I get face to face with them on Friday. Now, there's a real balance there, and again, you've got to read the play. So a pre-list email will go out immediately from my EA Genevieve, but then it's a case of, okay, what can I do? What can I do? What other step or form of communication can I have with this person between now and Friday that can edge me closer ever so slightly? So if I'm meeting someone on Friday, I'll invite them to my auction tonight at Phillip Street, Birchgrove at 5 o'clock. I might, if I get a testimonial, I might screenshot that and forward it to them. Guys, just thought you'd appreciate seeing this. This has come through from a local seller who I've just represented. Here's a number. Feel free to call her. Whatever it may be, I'll just try and understand anything I can do to progress myself between now and when I'm actually meeting the person, so that when I get there, they've probably heard from me sort of 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if that someone may have a question in the group, but I take from that the pre-meeting phone call, he slows down, gets all the information so he understands the landscape. He's putting it on his pipeline sell list. How many sellers have you got on your pipeline sell list, Andrew?
About about 70.
Yeah. And how many do you sort of keep close? Because 70 is a lot.
I keep close, probably 15.
Yeah. Yeah. So smaller group. And are you doing 2 meetings with the sellers or one, or it just depends?
Yeah, look, it depends. If it's someone that's I'm meeting that's uncontested, I'll try and sign it on the spot. But more often than not, I would like to meet with them first, build that rapport, and then get them back into the office here in Balmain and actually provide a proposal. I try and avoid at all costs sending any emails. I just find that my success rate sending an email proposal is poor, because I find that vendors focus on the wrong things, and it's very hard for me to articulate my value add in an email. So if the seller says to me, Andrew, yeah, great, really appreciate your time. If you can send us an email proposal, that'd be really helpful. I actually just say to them, guys, I don't have an email, a generic. I say that I don't have a generic email proposal that I send out to sort of all and sundry. It's really important, even if I can just sit with you for 15 minutes. Now, I know that meeting is going to go a lot longer than 15 minutes, but I think people get sort of fearful that you're going to lock them in a boardroom for an hour, which will eventually end up happening anyway. But I just say, look, I don't have a generic email proposal. If we can catch up for 15 minutes in my office on Monday at 2 o'clock, I think that's going to be the best way for me to explain my value add.
How do you progress? You do appraisals all the time. How do you progress those appraisals into, whether it's off market? How do you progress an appraisal into a signed listing? Is it based on them, or are you progressing them? Like, that's right. Is there someone going, okay, Andrew, I'm ready? Or are you saying, hey, Bob, Linda, we should be moving this forward. We've got, off market, we've got buyers. And is there some magic that you're saying and progress people, or is it up to them?
I think it's a combination of both. And I also think that you can't progress every situation. If someone desperately wants to wait for their daughter to finish year 12 in the HSC this year, asking them to put it on the market now, if it doesn't suit their timing, is probably going to put you on the back foot. I mean, you could probably offer an alternative, but I think there are definitely situations where you can't progress. Others you definitely can. We saw one off market earlier in the month for just under 7. The vendor at the beginning of the year was considering going on the market. Then he said, actually, you know what? It just makes more sense for me to do this in August. Happy to go with you, happy to sign an agreement, but I'm going to wait till August. And I said, mate, why don't we just get a few buyers through now? I've just sold something for 6. There's a handful of buyers left over. Are you open to that? He said, yeah, probably at the right price, but it'd have to be a 4-month settlement because of my timing, et cetera, et cetera. We showed a few buyers through and managed to nail it off market for 6.8 million. So I think there are definitely circumstances. Like I said to a lady, actually, I met with a lady yesterday in Roselle, and she said, oh, look, we're moving to Wollongong. We want to be in Wollongong by the end of the year. And I said to her, any reason you'd wait till the end of the year? And she said, oh, I just always thought spring was the right time. And I said, yeah, look, spring is a good time. But do you mind if I challenge you on that? Are you open to that? And she said, yeah, what do you think is an alternative? And I said, well, my view is that if you wait till August, September, you'll be one of many which have the same sort of train of thought, and you might be one of 10 3-bedroom houses in Roselle at the moment. Right now, there's nothing to choose from, and you could be in isolation. Would you sell it now if I had a buyer for it? Yeah, geez, I actually reckon we would. Where would you go? Where would you actually go? Oh, no, we've got friends in Wollongong. We could stay with them while we look to buy something. So all of a sudden, I think I've changed her, or at least given her an option to consider a sale now, as opposed to waiting till August, September, which she thinks is the right time because the flowers are going to be pretty.
Gotcha. Good work. Hey, mate, most of my guys and girls here, I wish they could have 10 more listings each. So that would be if I could click my fingers and give all my clients in this group 10 listings each more, that would be the one thing I would do. So how do you get more? How would you say to us that we can go get more business? And I know it's a very broad, open-ended question, and that's a big response, but what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Make more calls.
Make more calls.
Yeah. I mean, I think, to garner another 10 listings overnight or in the next few weeks is not the way it works. If that was the case, everyone would have 10 more listings. So I think it starts with a decision. Do you actually want 10 more listings? Or what do you want? Because I think that there's there's, as I said, everyone's on a different journey and everyone's got different things that are important to them. And there might be people in this group that are really happy selling 4 a month, which is wonderful. So I think first thing you need to decide is what your goals look like so that you can get clear about how you actually make that happen. And I feel like with your help, I've always been pretty clear with my goals. I've got them stickered to my desk. I've got them inside my cabinet mirror in my bathroom, and I've got them in my sun visor in my car. So I refer back to them pretty regularly. So I think the first thing is get clear about how many more listings you want, why you want them, and if you don't want more listings, that's okay too, because I think there shouldn't be this sort of blanket rule that everyone should be selling 100 houses a year, because as I say, everyone's got a different journey, different wants and needs and desires. But I think the reality is, if I have spent the last 14, 15 years watching people like you, like Adrian, like McClay, like all of the sort of high performers that I've been surrounded by and watched, there is a fairly sort of basic common thread, and the thread is commitment. Being serious about mastering their craft, whether that's buy work, listing, open heart, just being very serious about being professional about this and taking it seriously. Making more calls and having good clean data. I listened to your video with Anna Cavill the other day, and very impressive lady doing very good business, and I think the traits are the same. She makes calls, she has good profile, does well.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. So everybody's different. Everybody has a different journey. For some people, it's how do they get to 10 sales? For some, it's how do I get to 20? For some, it's how do I get to 30? For others, it's how do I get to 50 or 100? So I think I'm really glad that you said that. One of the things that I have conflict with is a lot of my agents that half the agents that I coach sell between 5 and 30 a year. And part of the conflict I have is they're time poor. They're having to do a lot of the things themselves. Like you've got a PA and you've got 3 associates. So they're having to do building inspections, photo shoots, prepare their proposals, far out, pick up a set of keys, everything. Right? So I'm always caught in conflict because would you tell them that they should invest in a PA or an associate if they're doing 200, 300 or 400 GCI? Or would you say to them, what would your advice be there?
Again, it has to come down to the individual's desire. For me, again, there was no, I just couldn't see any other option than being a high-performing volume agent. So for me, it was, I am going to back myself. I am going to put on a junior probably before I'm ready. I am going to try and look for a PA before I'm ready, because I knew that if I backed myself and put myself under a bit of pressure, it would help me perform. So I think, it has to be a decision from the individual around if they're doing 20 sales a year, but they want to be doing 35, then there has to be a sacrifice, a financial sacrifice to help them grow, because there's no, like, if I do 110 sales this year, I'm not doing that alone. As I said, I've got a wife that's a rock star in the background. I've got an amazing EA, Genevieve, and I've got 3 other team members who are incredibly supportive. There's no way I could do 110 sales without my sort of roster or without my group. And furthermore to that, I've got you, I've got Adrian, I've got a great accountant, I've got a PT. So I have invested in my circle because I know that it's near impossible or very difficult to do it without that circle. So I think if you want to progress, you have to.
Yeah, and I've gone over time, and this is on me, and I apologise. For you,
I've got a 12:30 buyer appointment.
Okay, 2 quick ones. Vendor management. How do you, because there's a bridge appearing with a lot of sales at the moment. What's your best advice for vendor management? And then the last question is time management. But quick one on vendor management.
Vendor management, I think, comes back to process and and again, going back to my earlier point about continually growing and learning, and never sort of feeling like I'm at the top at all. I called Erkan Erson, who's a good volume agent in the inner west, last week, and I said, mate, can I have a coffee with you? I just want to sort of understand your process. So I think vendor management is about communication. It's about consistent communication. It is about providing written reports, and it's about meeting face to face with people. It's also about, as you've said to me before, and I've learned, and again, every situation is different, is figuring out where this line is in terms of education on a vendor's point of view, because everyone's different, and some people are ready to meet the market day 3, and some people are not ready to meet the market day 4 till day 43. And if you can't read the play and you treat everyone the same, you'll end up clashing with people. So I think it's about asking questions, making sure that, like I say at a listing presentation, we will never have any of this. We might have some uncomfortable conversations, and we might have some situations where I'm delivering news that I definitely don't necessarily want to deliver, but I'm doing it out of respect to you, and I'm doing it because I think it's the right thing to do. But I never want you to feel like it's me versus you. It's us versus the market, and I'm here in your corner. So I always come from a sort of supportive point of view, and I get that 99% of the time, most of the clients we deal with are pretty intelligent, and if they want to sell at the right time, they'll do it, and if they don't, that's okay as well. Yeah.
You're a legend, mate. We could speak for an hour. I've got a group that we've moved the time to already, and I want to just do some coaching with the guys and girls individually. I did ask if I'd have any questions, but we're not going to have time for that.
Sorry.
I think it's been really good. I appreciate a lot of the things you've said to me. Obviously, we've got a strong relationship and we've known each other for a long time, but for all of these people that just met you for the first time. But I think I love that, mate, you're coachable. I love that you've become really strong in listing. You're definitely in a good flow. Process and being consistent is definitely Andrew Liddell. 15 years, he doesn't think he could have done it any quicker, which is really good to hear him say that. There's been a lot of lessons along the way, but he said you have to become a strong lister, is what I got. We didn't touch on buyers, but Andrew last year had 1 or 2 off-market sales in the first 5 months of last year. And the last 7 months of last year, Andy, how many did you have?
This year so far?
Last year, the first 5 months, I think I recalled you having 2 off-market sales between January and May. And I can't remember, but I think you then turned it up. And
there was 12 or 14 or something. Yeah. And I think of the 32 that we've done this year, I think almost 10 of them are off market, or 9 of them are off market. So
there you go. So his buyer practice is strong as well. And when it comes to 2 other things, vendor management, he's just spoken about that. If we want more listings, guys and girls, he just said the first thing that came to mind, he said more calls. Andy, I know you got a 12:30. You go. Thank you. Good luck at Ari.
Sorry.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Keep up the great work. Thank you, mate.